that this is not a lens glare. Nobody's still really sure what this is. I still feel it's a craft of some sort. See, the little red dude's disappearing, coming out from behind the clouds in a matter of seconds here. And there it is. See what I mean? So, oh, this video's going to take forever to upload. Should be coming into complete clear here in a second. Okay, so let's see. How many of you think that this is a lens glare now? Again, I just proved it's not. Look off to the right-hand side of the video, you'll see the lens glare there, the red and the yellow. That's the lens glare off to the right. But that is definitely the moon and whatever is underneath of it. So, alright. Alright. Clouds are coming up. And the moon should cover up first. Okay. Well, they're both covering up. Okay. So does this prove that this is not a lens glare?
But this suppressed astronomical story about Nibiru's crossover and how it will alter the Earth and the solar system just happens to be one of those many things that are being kept in the dark. As I mentioned, there are strange happenings taking place within the interior of our planet. This is something that is being reported because it is a story that cannot be hidden from the public. It is there to be seen and noticed. Why are giant fountains of lava suddenly pouring out of some of the most dangerous volcanoes on the entire planet? And why are so many long dormant volcanoes suddenly roaring back to life? According to Volcano Discovery, 35 major volcanoes either are erupting right now or have just recently erupted, and dozens of others are stirring. Something is pushing magma up through the crust of the Earth at a number of key spots around the planet. The spectacular eruption of Mount Etna in Italy is making headlines all over the world. This latest eruption is the second this year and comes just a month after Mount Etna experienced a flurry of activity in late January. On the island of Sicily, the giant fountains of lava that are coming out of Mount Etna can be seen 30 kilometers away, as seen in this video clip. On the other side of the world, a constant stream of molten rock has been springing out of Guatemala's volcano of fire since February 25th. It was the volcano's second eruption this year. And in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a fire hose of lava has been pouring out of the Kilauea volcano since December 31st. Take a look. Volcanoes that have been dormant for a very long time all over the world have started springing back to life. For instance, the only active volcano in India has suddenly started spewing lava and ash after having been silent for 150 years. So many of these long dormant volcanoes are roaring back to life, and why this is suddenly happening now is puzzling many of the experts. And as you have seen, this isn't isolated to just one or two geographic regions. It literally is happening all over the globe. Last month, Indonesia's Mount Sinabung in the southern hemisphere erupted 7 times in the space of a single day, while authorities in the northern hemisphere were warning us that 4 of Iceland's biggest volcanoes are preparing to erupt. Indonesia and Iceland are about as far apart as you can get, and yet they are both being affected by this worldwide phenomenon. Now, without a doubt, something definitely appears to also be causing a significant increase in worldwide seismic activity. So let's talk about earthquakes for a moment. A website known as the Big Wobble recently published an article that included 2 extraordinary maps. The first map showed the number of major earthquakes from January 1900 to January of 1917. And the second map showed the number of major earthquakes since the beginning of this century. The difference between the 2 maps was startling, to say the least. It is becoming extremely difficult to deny that something is happening to the crust of our planet, and many are becoming concerned about what we could soon experience if the level of seismic activity continues to rise. We already talked about Mount Etna, but a much greater threat in Italy appears to be awakening under the city of Naples. A massive supervolcano known as Campi Flegrei is close to a critical state, and if it erupts, the consequences will be beyond catastrophic. The following comes from the National Geographic. A long, quiet, yet huge supervolcano that lies under 500,000 people in Italy may be waking up and approaching a critical state. Based on physical measurements and computer modeling, magma could be approaching the critical degassing pressure at the volcano in the metropolitan area of Naples, one of the most densely inhabited areas in the world, and where accelerating deformation and heating are currently being observed. If that supervolcano were to fully erupt, millions would die. The skies in the northern hemisphere would be darkened for months, and the resulting volcanic winter would cause famines all around the globe.
Kyle from Hillsboro, Oregon, sent me some incredible pictures of the sky, a phenomenon that he's been noticing on and off for the last couple of weeks. He said it needs to be cloudy, otherwise he doesn't notice this phenomenon. Here's a picture he sent me from 2 in the morning. It emanates from a bright pink, which he was not able to photograph, but it trails off into a dark, deep purple. I originally thought there was a fire burning near, but that was not the case. And in this one here, it was dark red. I haven't done anything to it. That's exactly how he sent it. These pictures here, he said, were the ones that were purple, but it didn't show up as well in the camera. He said it's actually gorgeous in person. So he's from Hillsboro, Oregon, seeing this in the 2 a.m. hours of the night sky. Here's a picture he sent me from, this was last night. This is looking due south. You can see the orange cloud. He thought there was a fire. There wasn't a fire. So if you guys are experiencing this or know anybody that is, can you send your pictures here? And the reason I'm doing a video about this is because I've had somebody tell me from North Carolina, the opposite side of the country, saw the same thing. Dark red skies in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. No storms, just clouds. It's actually very impressive. Look at that. Show you on Google Earth. Right here is Hillsboro. Some of these, maybe it's coming from the ocean. North Carolina, I don't know if that one was coastal or not. This isn't directly coastal, but you know, it's closer than the ocean than I am. And here's what the sky is looking like. 2 a.m. Pretty crazy. Remember the purple sky? This was 2 hours before the Houston tornado outbreak back last month. So it didn't happen right when the tornadoes were happening. This was hours before the tornadoes broke out. So there's purple in Houston. Blood red up in Oregon. And he saw him in the northeast, coming down to the southeast, in the south, drifting to the east-southeast. Unbelievable pictures. That location, sulfur dioxide, is colorless, so it's not that. Looked at the map, watched for different types of weather anomalies, maybe in his area up here, that could be responsible for that, and I can't conclude anything from this that would be a red cloud, a red sky. Very, very interesting. So if you have any pictures of a red sky, like our friend Kyle here from Oregon, please share them with us. We would love to see them. I have some other incredible pictures I'm going to share in a video tomorrow. And we're going to do a weekly video of the pictures that you guys share. All of the pictures that you guys share. We're going to do a video just of picture share, sky pictures, of anything of uniqueness. I want the white stop signs too, signs in general. Whatever you guys want to share, bring it. I'll do a video about it. I really do appreciate it. So there you have it, guys. I don't know what's going on, but we're seeing red skies up in northern Oregon.
Storm system that caused hundreds of lightning strikes is lingering over the city tonight.
An indication of that is a temperature reading that we call the dew point. That was very high this morning, one of the highest readings in March that we've had.
So it's not just that these events are unusual, it's that they're unprecedented.
Meanwhile, a staggering statistic out of Chicago.
There's rain in the northwest and snow where you'd expect it.
The Windy City had no measurable snow during January and February for the first time in 146 years.
A rare bit of normal in a bizarre winter.
In a normal winter, Illinois is blanketed in snow, not battered by tornadoes like this deadly twister on Tuesday.
It's mind-blowing. We've never had anything like it since I've been around. And it's just, it's pretty wild.
We can say without a doubt that heat waves are occurring more frequently, they're lasting longer.
All these are the beginning of birth pains. But then he comes to the word, it's interesting, he says, but then. And when he says then, he starts talking about what we might say, if we're going to put it into pregnancy terms, that there will begin this time of hard labor. And we know that in terms of the gestational cycle, that when a woman begins to be very near delivery, she begins to feel abdominal pains and cramps much more significantly, much more severe. It becomes evident because this is discomfort of a different kind.
Has warned the drought in the region, in the Horn of Africa, is creating a potential humanitarian disaster.
Somalia's Prime Minister says some 110 people have died in the south of the country in the last 2 days from famine.
It is imperative for us to help each other, as the magnitude of this drought is very alarming.
And what Jesus wanted us to understand is that when we come to the times of the end, it's not going to be like we can't recognize it, because not only have we been given information about what's coming in the world, but it's going to be pretty obvious that this is not normal, that the world is moving in directions heretofore unseen.
It's grazing time in Mongolia, but the animals, weak and weary from one of the harshest winters in decades, seem reluctant to move.
While in California, there's been so much snow that a 5-year-long drought may finally be over after one of California's wettest winters on record.
And so far, even one of Hawaii's mountains has gotten more snow than Denver. Most years, Vermont maple syrup farmers like Dave Silloway would be trudging through 3 feet of snow. Their task is easier this season.
And across the country, it's likely to mean harsher bushfire conditions, longer and hotter heat waves, an increase in the number of severe thunderstorms and more intense cyclones and rain, while extreme droughts are expected to become more frequent and last longer.
El llamado noveno planeta, para algunos reconocido como Hercóbulus, Nibiru o Planeta X. Como usted sabe, el primer registro de él aparece en tablas sumerias de más de 5.000, 6.000 años de antigüedad, y hasta el día de hoy había sido una leyenda. Hoy sabemos que efectivamente existe un cuerpo masivo, muy grande, muy posiblemente del tamaño de los grandes planetas de nuestro sistema solar, que tiene una órbita alrededor del Sol, se dice de 20,000 años. Todavía hay mucho que aprender y de saber de este misterio, ya que hasta el día de hoy no se le ha logrado fotografiar. Aquí le presento la investigación de Fernando Correa.
Un equipo de astrónomos afirman tener evidencias de la existencia del noveno planeta. Nadie lo ha observado. Sin embargo, se ha logrado determinar que se localizaría 20 veces más lejos que Neptuno. Sería entre 10 y 20 veces más grande que la Tierra. Se piensa que es muy oscuro y que tiene una órbita muy alargada, dando una vuelta al Sol cada 20,000 años. Estos cálculos son posibles gracias a las observaciones de las órbitas de 14 planetoides más allá de Neptuno, en el cinturón de Kuiper. La posición, dirección y órbitas de estos planetoides no se pueden entender a menos que exista un enorme planeta muy masivo que determinaría la posición de los planetoides. Sería el quinto en tamaño después de Júpiter, Saturno, Urano y Neptuno. Esta es la investigación del noveno planeta que está siendo relacionado con el llamado Planeta Unidos. Mike Brown y Konstantin Batygin anunciaron que tenían evidencias de la existencia real del noveno planeta.
What we have discovered is that numerous features of the Kuiper Belt, a field of icy debris beyond the orbit of Neptune, can be understood if the solar system possesses an additional ninth planet that resides well beyond the orbits of the known planets.
De manera que el campo gravitacional y la dirección de las órbitas de los planetoides en el cinturón de Kuiper se explican por la existencia de un noveno planeta. Mike Brown en 2003 descubrió el planetoide Sedna. En 2005, los planetoides Eris y Makemake. Y en 2016 explica por qué existe el noveno planeta.
When we looked at the outer solar system, we realized that while most of the very distant objects, these objects beyond Neptune, beyond Pluto, most of these objects, they all go around the sun and they're all sort of pointing off in all different directions. But the most distant objects all swing out in one direction in a very strange way that shouldn't happen. And we realized that the only way we could get them to all swing in one direction is if there is a massive planet also very distant in the solar system, keeping them in place while they all go around the sun.
Aunque existen evidencias de la existencia del noveno planeta, aún no ha sido observado. Sin embargo, ya se está buscando con los mayores telescopios del mundo. Se calcula deberá ser observado los próximos 5 años. La confirmación de su descubrimiento seguramente resolverá el enigma del planeta oscuro llamado Nibiru o Hercolobus, el planeta bíblico conocido como Ajenjo, un planeta que se describe en la tablilla de Berlín de las crónicas de los sumerios. El noveno planeta está siendo relacionado con Nibiru en una investigación que continuará. Informó Fernando Correa.
God sets us up for a miracle by orchestrating perfect timing. It's up to us to open our eyes and believe. Gil Broussard has made a very bold prediction that Planet X's next flyby will be at Passover 2016. And he's actually calculated all of its orbit and given all these dates. And he's as deeply studied and researched in this area as anybody I know. So I just put that up there and time will tell if he's right. He bases this on an average orbit of about 320 to 330 years per revolution of Planet X. And he predicts actually very boldly that on the 23rd of March 2016 we will have a close flyby of Planet X. Not far away. So something is coming. There will probably be a scientific explanation for every disaster that will happen in the book of Revelation.
And as it was in the days of Noe, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day that Noe entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all.
Let's go to Noah's flood. I think you're going to be very surprised by this. I believe all the fuel that we pump into the cars, it's a reminder of Noah's flood. Millions of dead organic material buried suddenly, form fossil fuel. So for all the people who say, I don't believe the Bible, I don't believe it happened, you're pumping it into your car every day. It's amazing, isn't it? In Genesis chapter 7, in the 600th year of Noah's life, this is what people don't know. They thought it just rained for 40 days. It didn't. Number one, it says, God said, all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were open. It's an interesting phrase. It's not just that it rained. Something broke apart in the heavens, and something broke apart in the earth's crust. And the waters prevail on the earth 150 days. Gives us a clue to something. And by the way, most things happen not once. Almost nothing in the Bible happens once. So everything that happens here is a prelude to something else. Only in Noah's flood, God promised, never going to flood the whole world in the same way. Yet everything usually happens twice. So these details here, they'll be handy in the end times. 150 days. Because guess what? Book of Revelation also says one of the trumpet judgments will last 5 months. 5 months is 5 times 30 days, 150 days. Jewish calendar days are 30 days a month. Very interesting. There's parallels between Genesis and Revelation all the way through. The Bible is saying the flood was not mere rain for 40 days. It says the canopy of water that was ruptured from above the firmament separated the water from below. And 150 days later, the waters receded. Well, how is that possible? Well, if you map out Planet X's orbit, it seems that Planet X has an orbit that crosses the Earth's orbit twice in a period of 150 days. So you see, point 1 is the Sun, point 2 is the first crossing of the Earth, point 3 is the second crossing as it leaves the solar system. So here's a scenario that may explain Noah's flood. Planet X crosses the Earth's orbit, and then each encounter brought debris and meteors upon the Earth. So here's the first flyby. On the second Passover, 3000 BC, remember Passover is the only feast where if you missed it, God gave you grace, you can celebrate it a second month, the month later. Well, Noah recorded that on the second Passover, 3000 BC or 5,000 years ago, the waters broke from above the heavens. Well, a meteor shower would have done that. Meteors would have opened the floodgates of heaven, shattering the upper firmament that divided the waters from the waters. Then, 5 months later, it makes a revolution around the sun, comes back, the earth happens to meet on this occasion the debris of Planet X once again as it exits the solar system and the Earth's orbit. And so this is probably what happened. 150 days later, a second flyby of Planet X drags a 110-mile wide asteroid into a collision course with Earth. And there's a reason why we have quite an exact figure on the size of this asteroid or this meteor, but we have to say asteroid because it's so big. Here's a moment of impact. A scientist calculated at a trajectory of 22, or an angle of 22 degrees. There's the moment of impact. It would have sent shock waves into the Earth's core and all throughout the Earth. That would have ejected some of the Earth's crust, leaving basins of for water to recede into, which today forms our oceans. Now, science always denies catastrophic events until catastrophic events happen. Did you know that last week an earthquake, 7.7 earthquake in Pakistan, created an island like that? If you don't know, just go on the news and see it. They always say over millions and millions and millions of years, and yet on the news, turn on, boom, an island just got created. In the same way, something suddenly happened and the waters then receded. Something scientific, something explainable had to have happened. A 110-mile diameter meteor or asteroid would have impacted the Earth. Planet X gravitational electric influence would explain the start of Noah's flood. Canopy broke. The end of the flood, a meteor came and then ejected some of the crust, which left basins 5 degrees, which allows for seasons. I always believe in the beginning of the Earth. Now we got seasons, winter, summer, and all that. And it would have also cracked the Earth into tectonic plates. Does the Bible talk about this? Yes, it does. Isaiah 24, verse 19 and 20. Behold, the Lord makes the earth empty and makes it waste, distorts its surface. The earth is violently broken. The earth is split open, the earth is shaken exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard and totter like a hunt. That sounds like the earth's 23.5 degree tilt. Planet X could provide a scientific explanation for all these things we observe. The earth's crust is definitely cracked like an eggshell into tectonic plates. What we see on the globe is not exactly the plates. Underneath, they're all cracked. Now, one problem a scientist had with this was that if such a large impact had occurred, the amount of heat that would have been generated would have wiped out all life. That's just the physics of it. And so this person who didn't believe the Bible challenged this other scientist who believes the Bible and says, well, you got a heat problem. It's just impossible that this happened 5,000 years ago. He says, well, how about this? What if the entire surface of the planet was covered in water? Isn't water a perfect conductor of heat? Would have absorbed all the heat. In fact, I saw on the news today, global warming scientists, because they're having a real hard time now explaining global warming. They're saying, oh, well, the ocean is such a good conductor of heat. Global warming is happening. We are responsible, but the oceans have absorbed all the heat. The miracle was the perfect timing. He says, get in the ark. The meteor shower came. Planet X could have passed by. Maybe that's the gravitational force that pushed all these meteors in Noah's way. He got in the ark. He was safe. Then it came. Then the big meteor that helped the waters to recede came at the moment where the entire earth was covered with water, absorbing most of the shock, most of the heat. Amazing? God is amazing. His miracles usually involve perfect timing. Now, the question remains, is there any evidence of such an impact? Well, I'm going to show you something that you will never forget. Most truths are staring at us in the face. It's right in front of our eyes, but we don't know it's there until somebody points it out to us. So I'm going to point it out to you, the evidence of this impact. It's called the Gulf of Mexico. This is a perfect circular crater left by an impact of an asteroid. Does that look like a perfect circle to you? Pretty much for geography. Compare that to the Arizona crater, which is 0.7 mile wide. The Gulf of Mexico's crater is 1,100 miles wide, and we usually calculate that a meteor is 10% the size of the impact crater. That's why we have quite a good idea of how big this thing was that came at the end of Noah's flood, or as the waters receded. What's interesting is if we take pictures subterranean, sub-ocean pictures, we also can see there's a visible landslide under the ocean. Can you see that? At the top of the circle, the land slid into the ocean in the distant past. If this has happened before, this area from Houston to Louisiana to New Orleans is a high-risk area for collapse a second time if there was could be unstable. Also, you know that oil and gas are found in abundance in this area because plant life was buried suddenly by a previous landslide. So 70 to 80% of America's domestic oil and gas flows through the pipelines of this high-risk zone. Now, the shock waves were sent around the world. Is there any evidence of that? Sure there is. It caused an uplift on the other side of the planet. It's called the Himalayan mountain range. Take a look at it. It's a perfect curve. It's the same curve as the Gulf of Mexico sent to the other side. In other words, Himalayans were formed in a matter of seconds. Number two, it also means the highest peaks of the Himalayas did not exist at the time of Noah's flood. So a lot of people like to argue and say, well, how much would it have to rain to reach all the way to the top of the globe? It's all there. But I'll take you even further. This is a NASA satellite map of gravity. Did you know that gravity is unevenly distributed on the Earth? You are slightly heavier in Asia. That's why we have to eat rice and not pasta. You're slightly heavier in Asia because the land density is greater. Well, what could have caused that? It indicates pressure wave. Powerful meteor impacting during a total global flood is a logical explanation for this anomaly on our planet. Let's talk about future implications, because that's the part everyone wants to know. What does this matter to me? Revelation is a timeline. Revelation indicates that worse things will happen during the 7-year tribulation. I think that's pretty scary, don't you think? So we don't want to be there for that. We want to believe Jesus now. We want to accept the Savior now. He's giving us warning through all of this prophecy and science. You don't want to be here for this.
And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall